Yes, that's right. I worked 20 years in the IT industry, 15 years for IBM, many years as an internal market development advisor. Over the last years, I changed my role. I'm an analyst now with a complete focus on IoT, not only on the industrial space, so we are looking really in all other verticals also, but I'm completely focusing currently on IoT and especially on IoT platforms. And I'm following this market now over the last 5 years, and I choose 2 terms here which are still relevant for this market of IoT platforms. We still see a lot of complexity in this market. It's still very confusing. What is an IoT platform? What is not an IoT platform? Still complex. We as analysts, we are sometimes part of the solution, but sometimes we are also part of the problem, right? Because we have all our own definitions and users have our own definitions. So it's really complicated. And we jump a little bit also into this complexity and discuss a little bit, okay, what makes sense that we call it an IoT platform, or maybe it's not an IoT platform. But what I see also is really a fast evolution. A fast evolution, many vendors are jumping into this market. We saw many big guys like SAP, like AWS, Microsoft are joining this market of IoT platforms over the last years by acquisition, but not only. When you look at Siemens, so some companies are also developing their own IoT platforms to become a relevant vendor of these solutions in the market. So we see a huge complexity, a lot of interest from many companies, from many vendors to become here really a relevant player in this market. I mentioned I worked 20 years in the IT industry, 15 years IBM, 5 years as an analyst. I have to talk quickly about my company. I work for PAC. We exist since 1960. We are an analyst house with a clear focus on the European market, on IT services and on software. This is our background. We do this now for many, many years. We are even older than OCSoft, right? They started in the market 1980, right? So we are really for a very long time already in the market. We have 2 sister companies, and we are going currently through a rebranding. So PAC as a brand will disappear, and we will become together the technology group. Anything else unchanged. So let's dive into the complex market of IoT platforms. And I know it's always a little bit boring to talk about what is a definition. And so I know it's boring, but it's really still a complex market, and it's important to discuss this also, how we see the market, but you can see it also different. So I never say my definition is the right one, right? So this is really still open and what we need, and we are still struggling to have a joint definition of what an IoT platform is. I hope that the market evolution will go forward very fast, that we really come fast to a joint evolution to reduce the complexity and the confusion we still see in the market here. So why are basically IoT platforms helpful? Well, basically, when we look very holistically at the layer, IoT platform is between the IoT infrastructure, all the devices, and between the IoT applications on the other side. So this is really at the intersection point, and the relevance is really to manage all these devices, to manage data, to manage applications, right? So this is the purpose of an IoT platform, to be here in the middle of these 2 layers. So the most agree to this, and this is not a part of the complexity. The complexity is really starting when we go 1 level deeper and when we want to discuss, okay, so what are the capabilities behind an IoT platform? And then we have really a lot of confusion, because now you can argue, okay, I accept only an IoT platform which really delivers all kind of capabilities, integrated capabilities, right? And this is the advantage of a platform, that you have integrated capabilities. You can build your own IoT platform, of course. So you can select many solutions here to build your own platform, but the big advantage is really that you have an integrated solution, an integrated platform with integrated capabilities. This gives you much more flexibility, speed, really speed to market. This is really very important. And the discussion between analysts and users is really going back and forward regarding these capabilities. So some really argue, okay, you need all kind of these capabilities. You have to do device management. You need to manage the connectivity. You have to visualize the data. You have to enable application development, application integration, also machine learning. So when this is your argumentation that you're really looking for integrated capabilities, a platform with all these capabilities, you will not find many out there in the market, right? But when you start on the other side, and when you say, okay, it's enough when just one capability, when a vendor just provide one capability or two capabilities, then we end up, and I hear this often, that we see hundreds or even thousands of IoT platforms out in the market. Yes, it really depends on the capabilities you see behind the platform. From my perspective, it really makes sense when we talk about an IoT platform, you should have some of these capabilities. Not necessarily all of these capabilities are necessary for all the use cases, right? And what we also see in the market, let's face it, the reality is all the vendors are coming from different perspectives. They have different starting points, and we really see that they broaden more and more their capabilities. But we see many IoT platforms, they're starting in the data management and analytics space and moving forward to other areas. But we see also other IoT platforms with a strong focus on device management, and they are also trying to extend their capabilities to provide more capabilities. So it really depends on what kind of capabilities do you today need, because currently, from my perspective, there is no perfect IoT platform out there in the market which delivers all kind of use cases. This just not exists. This is a wish. We maybe come to this stage in the future, but this is not the reality today we have. So, but the question is, what I get always from clients is really, okay, so I'm looking for one platform, right? And I want to have one platform for all my use cases. So the perfect way many clients see it, okay, I only need one IoT platform. This is really efficient. And I want to build different use cases on top of these platforms. You can do this with internal developers. You can use a system integrator, whatever you want, so internal or external resources to build applications on top of a platform. So this seems to be a perfect approach to IoT, to have everything integrated on one platform. What I mentioned, this is not the reality I see today in the market. And as I mentioned, I'm still looking for 5 years in this market, and we are still not there, that there are really many IoT platforms out there which provide a platform for all kind of use cases. So still in the market, we see that IoT platforms have sweet spots and limitations to specific use cases. But when you look into this, the major problem for many users is still they have some use cases in mind today, right? How they want to start. But they don't think about, okay, and what is maybe the next step? And what I learned is at the beginning, I looked at the IoT platform market really holistically and looked, okay, so what kind of capabilities I see across all these platforms. But what I learned, and as I'm doing benchmarks in this space, you have to be specific regarding definitions, you have to be specific regarding the criteria you are evaluating. I learned quickly that I'm comparing apples, cherries, and bananas. when I throw all the IoT platforms in one segment. So, and that's the reason why we started early to segment the market. Even when the segmentation is not perfect, we start with different use cases and say, okay, for these kind of use cases, from our perspective, this is currently the best platform we see here in the market. And we still see a lot of differences in the market regarding the capabilities. But when we talk about IoT platforms, we should not only focus on technology, because it's also very important that you look at the broader ecosystem around the vendor, because this is even very important, and I will tell you shortly why I have this perspective. So many questions from clients to identify maybe one perfect IoT platform. What we do, we created a set of criteria we use for our benchmarks. And as you can see here, we are not only looking into functionalities, how broad the portfolio is, we also look into the qualitative perspective. So we are also looking into references, user references, what the users are telling us about a platform. But from our perspective, it's also very important to go a step further, to go beyond pure technology, to look at the company, really to understand what is the strategy of the company, what is the ecosystem, the go-to-market. Because when you choose an IoT platform, this is a long-term relationship, right? So it's not the intention of companies that you change your IoT platform vendor back and forward. The intention is really to find one trusted partner for many, many years. So many criteria. I don't want to confuse you about this, but what I want to show you is, from my perspective, and our role as analysts are currently really changing, because what we have done in the past regarding a benchmark was basically we are looking for technology, we are looking for feature function, we are looking for qualitative aspects of this technology. From my perspective, this is not anymore enough. And the reason is clear. What we see, we are in times now that solutions are accelerating, are innovating so fast. This means for me, when I do a benchmark on IoT platforms now, and we just have done one, then I have to do the next one in 2 weeks from now, because so many features and functions are really coming on a weekly, on a daily basis, and it doesn't make sense only to look into technology. It's more and more important for me as an analyst to predict how an IoT platform will evolve over the coming time. And that's the reason why it's much more important for me not only to look into the current capabilities, but also to understand how a company is positioned and is moving forward. So what are really the next steps? So not only the roadmap, in this case also it's very important to understand the ecosystem, how strong is the ecosystem, that overall the total solution is really further developing very strong, because what we see in the market today is really that these platforms are really evolving very, very fast, and this will go on in the future. And this is not only the case in the IoT space, we see this also in other areas, especially around the cloud. So let's talk about the market segmentation. So I mentioned when we throw all the IoT platforms in one basket, we are not comparing apples to apples. We really see different kinds of IoT platforms. And basically, you can split the market of IoT platforms very basically in, okay, who is using this IoT platform? Because on one side, we really have the developer space, right? The developers who are using a platform. But more and more, we realize that companies have really limited resources regarding developers. So they are looking for specific IoT platforms which non-developers can also use. They call it often rapid application deployment. They call it often low-code platforms. So these are the two different kinds of segments we see regarding IoT platforms. And when a company is now starting looking for the right IoT platform, often they start and try to start with a platform regarding rapid application deployment because they are really easy to use, right? So you can really do very fast, connect the first devices, visualize data, to do a little bit of event processing, but it's maybe not the right decision for the company when they just try to start very fast, because sooner or later often they need completely other capabilities which are maybe much deeper in the analytics space. And so maybe it was the wrong approach to start with a low-code platform. So basically we see this split of IoT platforms regarding, okay, who is really the user? And when we look here on the right side, on the side of the IoT platforms for developers, the world is complex for developers, and that's the reason why we see here different market segments currently for developers. One set of IoT platforms really focuses on analytics and machine learning, but there are two more segments. So there's also another segment which really focuses on device management for all kind of devices. But you can split this also up into two areas. So one is really regarding bigger devices, but there's also a new area emerging, and then we are quickly in the embedded space, right? So then we are talking about very small IoT devices, many devices you want to connect to on cloud. They do not have a normal Linux operating system, so they are often running a real-time operating system. But we will see more and more that also these small devices will be connected to an IoT platform, and somebody tries to manage them. Often more and more via low power wide area networks. So these kind of technologies will become also important. So you see the world of developers is much more heterogeneous and complex. We still see different segments here and different IoT platforms with different capabilities. So what will change? I mentioned we just have released our latest benchmark on IoT platforms. And the interesting thing is what is really changing is we see two things in parallel. On one side, we see consolidation of the market, but on the other side, we also see an explosion. So does this really fit together? I want to explain you how this fits together. And what we see here, and this is the first step, this is really the consolidation of IoT platforms around developers. So the three segments I mentioned earlier, we see more and more overlap between the vendors in this space to providing more and more capabilities. So we expect that very fast this will merge together to one integrated market segment, IoT platforms with deep capabilities to develop complex IoT use cases, but they are in use by developers, right? So this is the one trend we expect to see, which will go on, which already started and which will go on. But the other one is, and this rises again the complexity, right? Beside IoT platforms, we see also that new market segments are emerging around IoT platforms, right? Because you cannot look only into IoT platforms in isolation. You have to see it also together with other technologies. And what we have done this year for the first time, we really looked into these new emerging market segments around IoT platforms we see. So one example is augmented reality platforms for connected workers. Today, not really integrated with IoT platforms, but we see that the first vendors are thinking and looking in this direction to combine an IoT platform with an augmented reality platform to visualize data also in this aspect to users. What we also see, and we looked the first year also into IoT platforms based on open source. We were surprised there are already several IoT platforms out there in the market based on open source. Not so many, but we see already some of them. So we have taken a first look also into this market. Maybe also interesting, I know some clients are really scared about this, but data exchange and monetization is also a topic which is at our doorstep, right? So this does not mean that somebody is abusing your data, but we see IoT platforms emerging. They are not IoT platforms today, but we expect that IoT platforms and platforms for IoT data exchange and monetization, they will merge together in the near future. Today, this is not the case. Today, the vendors we see here, they are testing a lot of things. They are not successful in the market today, but they are testing a lot regarding blockchain for micro payments. So a lot of tries and tests are going on in this field, and we believe that this will be the next step that we see the integration of these monetization platforms if they become successful, if the clients really want this. But it makes sense, right? We see more and more IoT data emerging, and you can think about, okay, do you want to hand them over to your supplier network? Maybe you can sell them. So it's not meaning that somebody is abusing your data, but you should be in the position that you can sell your data if you want to do this also to others. So this is also an interesting segment. And what we also see from a vendor perspective is that vendors of an IoT platform, and this also makes perfect sense for me, they have established an IoT platform. They're building more and more applications on top of this platform by themselves or by ISVs. They have more and more devices connected to their IoT platforms. The next step is really that you say, okay, we have connected many devices, this is done. So what we want to realize now is more and more different use cases. And they are thinking and have the intention to go in the direction and say, okay, it's not necessary that I build all these applications for my use cases by myself. So it would be much easier when there's an ecosystem of ISVs. They are building directly applications, IoT applications on top of a platform, and I can use them if this makes sense for me. And this will emerge in the market. So we believe that this will be the next step for many IoT platforms to develop an open marketplace for many different applications to serve many different use cases. Some provided by the vendor of an IoT platform, but not necessarily. It's even more important that you have a strong ecosystem of ISVs, of partners around these platforms, and they are helping you building applications on top of this. And this is very beneficial for many users, because the interesting point is you do not have to build your applications by yourself. You can test, you can try applications. You have connected already your devices, right? And you can really test an application. Is this working for you? Okay, it's great. It's value, then you can use it, or you say, no, it's not really helpful for me. So this is the next step we expect to see. We see it mainly in two areas emerging. One is more regarding horizontal applications or horizontal use cases, which means more, let's say, remote monitoring, track and trace, or let's say a little more simple use cases. But we see this also emerging, especially for the industrial space, much more complex solutions for dedicated use cases in the industrial space. These are the front runners from our perspective in this development. So what is the impact on the existing vendor landscape? This is also interesting to see. As I mentioned, I'm following this market now for many years. And you see between 2014 and 2018, we saw many acquisitions from bigger companies to enter this market of IoT platforms. not only IT related, right? So we see also industrial companies like KUKA, like Siemens, also very interesting. Insurance company Munich Re, they also acquired an IoT platform. So it's really interesting to see that also other companies are thinking in this direction and think about, okay, how can I utilize an IoT platform for my purposes, right? But this was the time between 2014 and 2018. So we saw a lot of acquisitions. The big guys are entering the market. But what happened lastly was really the first real market exits. This is interesting to see. So we see the consolidation in the market, but not anymore only acquisitions. So real vendors are leaving the market. They were not successful. Wind River left the market, transferred their assets to Telit. Samsung closed their IoT platform. C3 IoT, very interesting. They still do a little bit of IoT, but they even changed the name of their company to C3 AI, so focusing on artificial intelligence, not anymore strongly on IoT use cases. GE Digital, maybe they were too fast and too aggressive to the market. They expected too much revenue in too short time frame. This was not the reality. So what we see regarding GE Digital, they still have their IoT platform Predix. It still exists, but it's very interesting for me to see as an analyst, because when I want to talk to GE regarding Predix, they don't want to talk to me anymore about Predix. So they talk about their MES solution. So they're moving also into the application space. They are more going in this direction. So Predix, there's still not a strong investment anymore from GE in this space. What we also see, this is also interesting to see, we really see an evolution of collaboration around IoT platforms. So at the beginning, all the big IoT platform vendors really tried to work together with the big CNSIs, right, to get access to clients, to enter the market. In the next step, they realized, okay, we do not have all the capabilities users are looking for. So this was the starting point that we saw a lot of collaborations, and we still see between IoT platforms, right? Because they really realized, okay, we do not have all the capabilities, and to provide a total solution to my clients, I need cooperation with other IoT platforms. So we see this really a lot in the market. And what we see lately is really that more and more the hyperscalers, and here especially Microsoft and AWS, become relevant. So we see more and more IoT platforms. They are closely working together with AWS and Microsoft, not only regarding the cloud infrastructure, they are also leveraging their IoT capabilities for them. So we see a strong role of these two vendors currently in the IoT space. Google, not that much. They are also active, but they are not so strong from my perspective. And what I mentioned already earlier, we see refocusing from many vendors to moving to new areas. The reason behind this is really the consolidation we are seeing in the market. So some have to leave the market. They see more and more strong competition from AWS, from Microsoft in core areas here in the middle of the chart. So they are moving to new areas to provide their clients with more value, and also to escape the consolidation game which is currently going on. So this was an overall overview to IoT platforms I see currently in the market going on. As I mentioned, we have done just a benchmark. I want to dive into one of these benchmarks, which is maybe the most interesting for you regarding IoT platforms for industrial applications, so dedicated to this space. I included here again the key evaluation criteria we see for an industrial IoT platform with a focus on more and more applications around them, right? And this is really what we expect, what we will see in the near future. We split it up in 3 areas. The basic is really the technology, right? So it doesn't make sense that you have an IoT platform which really misses these kind of technology-related capabilities. So you really need real-time data management capabilities. It's perfect when you can really connect as many different devices as possible directly to this platform without any complications. And also what I mentioned is this open marketplace, really an open marketplace, not that just one vendor is building applications or only one system integrator. This is not fast enough from our perspective. So we really believe that an IoT platform which helps the users best possible should be an open IoT platform with an open marketplace, and many different ISVs have the capability to build industrial applications on top of this. So this is technology related. So this is, let's say, this is the starting point, right, of the game. But even more important is it to build up the ecosystem. We see many IoT platforms out there. They tell me, I have a perfect platform. I have technology related. I can do device management, data application management, and we can do this everything in real time. We can scale, but they have no ecosystem around them, and they will fail. The technology alone is not enough. You need good technology as a starting point, no question about this. But it's very important to build up the ecosystem of ISVs to deliver more value to your clients in the future. Otherwise, without an ecosystem, this will not be possible. And then the last point is growth related, and I see it really as a wheel, right? So a platform has often 2 sides of a market. So we have the users on one side, we have the platform in the middle, and on the other side we have applications, and hopefully more and more applications. But you will not get any ISVs and applications on board when you don't have any users. When you have many users on your platform, you're really very attractive to many ISVs. So they say, okay, it really makes sense for us that we focus on this platform and build applications on top of this, because there are many clients out there, right? So, and this is the wheel, what I mean. This is really important. You only get ISVs on board when you have clients. You only get clients on board in future when you also have many ISVs using your IoT platform. And when we come to OCSoft, and then I have to say that OCSoft is the company with good technology, definitely good technology, but they are also really strong already on the ecosystem side and also on the customer side. And what I see in the market, I see many IoT platforms from big vendors with big names, but not a lot of clients behind them. This means they do not earn a lot of money with them, and then you do not get any ISVs on board of your platform. That's the problem. And the big advantage from OCSoft is really they started many years ago with this, right? They do this for so many years, they have so many clients, and they are in a very good position to further grow this platform for the benefit of OCSoft, but also for the benefit of all the users on top of these platforms, because you will see more and more ISVs really building applications on top of this platform. And that's the reason. So here is our graphical perspective, how we see the market currently. I focused a little bit in, so we are here looking at competence and market strengths. These are the 2 areas we are looking in. And you see, our perspective is currently very clear. OCSoft has a very strong starting point to have a leading position in this market of IoT platforms. Of course, there are really strong players behind them, right? So Siemens is investing heavily. We see also Microsoft and AWS that they are focusing more and more also on the industrial space. But what I see currently in the market is OCSoft has really the strongest total solution from technology side, from the ecosystem side, and from the ISVs to further go on. I'm coming from Germany, and just one comment, you see Adamos and Axum maybe here, so maybe the one or the other is familiar with these IoT platforms. They get a lot of attention in the market, right? So a lot of discussions in the media about these platforms. I don't want to say they have bad technology, but the problem is they do not have any clients, they don't have ISVs on top of their platform, and this will not work. This will basically not work. The technology is not enough. You really need two sides of the market to become successful for all, for everybody in this space, for the ISVs, for the platform provider, and also for the user. We have also included here Forcam. Forcam is an MES vendor who is going also in the direction to build an open platform. We expect to see more MES vendors also moving in the direction of an IoT platform. Does this make sense? Yes, it really makes sense for them because they see their MES application as a core application based on an IoT platform, and they try to build more and more related applications around this core application. Maybe one comment also to, so Siemens I mentioned, maybe also one comment to SAP. We saw a lot of investment from SAP in Leonardo, but what we also see is that these investments slowed down significantly. So they have done a big push in the market, what we saw, but what we currently see is that the focus is not anymore so strongly to position SAP Leonardo in the market, and they're even collaborating very strongly with AWS and with Microsoft. So you see even big vendors are struggling to become successful with an IoT platform. And with this, I'm open for any questions. Yeah.
Hello, one question. Where do you think that the market with the IoT platforms is heading? Like, where will it be in like 5 years from now?
So I expect really that we will see two different things. Let me go quickly back. So I expect really that we will see IoT platforms with or market segment with a very broad aspect, which are providing some basic use cases around IoT for many different verticals. I think we will see this, but we will also see very, very specific IoT platforms for very dedicated industries. We will see very specific IoT platforms for connected cars, because this is a very sensitive area, right, regarding security also, when cars are driving more and more autonomous. So this will be a very sensitive area. So I will really see that we will have one layer of IoT platforms for many different verticals and with generic use cases and very specific ones. Yeah. Thanks.
No more questions? One?
Thank you very much. Yeah, the Munich RE acquisition of Relayer always fascinated me. An insurance company getting into that. Do you think that was a one-off transaction, or do you expect to see insurance companies and banks doing this sort of thing directly?
Michael, I was really surprised because as I saw it, I was really surprised to see this. And then I have done an analysis and I found another one. So the Zurich Insurance from Switzerland, they acquired Broadbox. So they acquired also an IoT platform, right? And the intention is really, okay, to sell new solutions. So the intention is two things, right? One is really to use these IoT platforms that more and more companies are selling products as a service, and they are building the financial system behind this. And the other one is really when you do big infrastructure projects, they have really an interest to put sensors nearly everywhere, right? And when they see, okay, something is breaking, we know it really so fast that the harm is really limited and not huge. So these are the two use cases I'm seeing in this space. And yeah, I see already two of them.
Interesting. Thank you.
Sure. Yes.
Hi, the comparison of the different IoT solutions or vendors, could you give more detail on how that was done? On what basis did you come up with that radar evaluating the different platforms?
Okay, so this was really the beginning where I mentioned the key criteria we are using, right? So these are the key criteria we are using for these platforms, and where I mentioned, okay, we are not only looking into the technology, feature and function, we are also looking into other aspects, but basically you put a value behind each of these criteria, and then you come up with a total value for competence and also for market strengths. I don't think for free, but I can share, of course.
Any other questions? Is that deck for free, by the way?
Yes,
Good.
of course.
Good. We got something. All right, cool. No more questions? We're good? We have one more, apparently. No?
No.
We're good.
Excellent.
Thank you, Arnold.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Many
Thank you.
thanks.